Hey guys, so this is one that's been requested many times on my channel, and I thought it was about time to cover it. So today we're going to be making a drop in the style of Nora En Pure. So the first thing I just like to think about when I'm trying to remake a sort of style or sound or remake an artist is what kind of sounds do they use. And for Nora En Pure, she uses really like organic sounds like piano and cello and organic drums and lots of like atmosphere and just to create this kind of organic and dreamy soundstage. Okay, so the first sound I'm going to be using is a cello, and I want to write some sort of an arp, kind of like the cello arp you hear in Enlightenment. So the idea is going to be to take kind of basic chord progression and just arpeggiate it. But first up, let's set the tempo here to 124. Okay, so I'm going to be writing in A minor or C major, whichever way you want to look at it. Okay, so we're starting on the A, and then I kind of want like an eighth note rhythm. Maybe something like that. Okay, so after some tinkering around, this is the melody that I wrote. Okay, I also wanted like a sort of like a drone sound that kind of just fills out the back of the mix. And I found this pad here from our new Purity preset pack, which is linked in the description. And it sounds like this. It's just playing our C note, which is the major third of A minor, or the tonic of C major. Okay, so next up I want to make some sort of like a progressive, plucky, rolling bass line. I noticed that Nora En Pure does this quite a lot, and if you listen to the song Enlightenment, you'll hear in the drop, she's kind of got this big brass stab followed by a nice rhythmic bass pattern to kind of like really drive the groove home. Okay, so I'm using this bass from Purity called Cozy, and all I did was just adjust the envelope to make it a bit more plucky than it was, and opened up the filter a little bit. And then I made this sort of like a rhythmic pattern. It goes like this. And all it's doing is following the bottom notes of our cello. Okay, so the next sound that we need is this kind of like big brassy bass stab that she does. Kind of goes like wow, wow, wow. Okay, so we kind of just want to follow this bass line. Okay, so the bass I'm using is also from the Purity pack, and I also just made a few adjustments to it. I made some adjustments to the envelope, so if you have the pack you can kind of copy the shapes that I used here, and then a little bit of a change to the filter too. And then I just cut out the low end, and this is how it sounds now. Wow! Okay, what I noticed about Nora En Pure compared to most of the other melodic house producers that I listen to is she doesn't really keep one idea going through the entire track. She likes to change stuff like every 8 or 16 bars. So she'll have like one arp playing, and then she'll take it completely out and then just play like some piano chord progression or a new bass line or have a vocal come in. But she doesn't really like keep stuff going together. And that leads to really clean mixes, because every time she adds something new, she takes something out. So in the B section of this loop, I kind of want to have like a little vocal that starts to just fade in over there. So I think Arcade's probably the perfect candidate for this sort of a thing. They've got this library called Distant Voices, which has like all these really spaced out kind of atmospheric vocals. And this is the pack I'm using, Winter Sun. And this is the sound that I went with. So yeah, really nice and ethereal. And then I just took out some of the mid-range because it was a little bit resonant. Okay, so another thing I want to add is an arp. So once our cello fades out, I want to have like this kind of different arp that starts to fade in towards like the end of the drop. Okay, so one tip that I picked up from watching one of Christian Hitt's masterclasses, and if you don't know who that is, he's Nora En Pure's co-producer. So he kind of helps her write her music and produces it. I'm not sure how involved he is, or who does what, but I know that they definitely work together. And one of the things he mentioned is he likes to use really short reverbs with a pre-delay on them. So I'm using this lead from Purity, and this is the ARP that I made. But now I want to have that really short reverb, so I've added Valhalla Room, and we've got the mix up almost at 50% with a really short decay, 0.18 seconds, and a long pre-delay. And that's how this sounds. Okay, so her ARPs are also really organic sounding and often layered with, I think, with like strings and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and layer it with like a staccato string ensemble from Contact. Okay, so I'm using the string ensemble on staccato over here, and I've got the same processing chain. All I've done is just taken out some of the mid-range to make space for the ARP, and then we're really just using the high end of this string. But together, when they're layered, it sounds really nice. Okay, so the last thing I noticed in her track is that she has this violin that comes in towards the end of the drop. Okay, so again, I'm just using the Contact strings, the stock ones. It's the violin ensemble, and it's set to sustain. And then I've got some shimmer on it, and I'm taking out some low end. And the chords sound like this. Okay, so I found a kick, and this is the one that I'm settling on. Okay, so in Enlightenment, she has this like really resonant mid-rangey clap that doesn't have much high end. It almost sounds like a wood block or something. But I know I have the perfect clap for that. In my Midnight Punch sample pack, which is this one, Clap 03, I use it all the time in my tracks. And I think it sounds pretty similar to the one that she's using, so I'm just going to go with that one. And this is just going on every second kick drum, just like this. Okay, so for the rest of the drums, we're going to basically just layer a bunch of different top loops together. I want a nice like rolling 16th note hat, and I want a strong like offbeat hat. And then I'm just going to try and find like some percussion loops that fit together with all of these sounds. Okay, so I found this rolling hi-hat loop from Christian's pack again. And then I'm layering it with this offbeat hi-hat. I found this loop which has like some nice percussive elements, and I just kind of pitched it around until it sounded in key with the rest of the elements. Together, all the drums sound like this now. Okay, so next up I want to write like a little bit of an intro. So in Nora's tracks, she likes to introduce melodies before the drop comes in, so that when it comes in, you kind of already primed for this melody and it's just something familiar. But she tends to play them on different synths or different instruments. So I think for the intro over here, what we're going to do is something similar to Enlightenment.
You're saying it wrong.
Where we're going to play that cello ARP or melody on the piano. Okay, so I'm using this Noor Felt piano. I think it's the best sounding piano out at the moment. And I've just taken out a whole bunch of the low end and added a bit of shimmer to it. And then I'm just using this glue compressor to turn up the volume because I'm playing the notes at a bit of a lower velocity, so the piano tends to be really quiet. And it sounds like this. Okay, then I just want to add some chords to kind of just play beneath this piano ARP. And to write the chords, all I did was basically copy the notes from the arpeggio and just stretch them out. So if I had to overlay these two and just focus in on the ARP, you'll see the ARP is falling on all the notes of the piano. And this is how the chords sound. Okay, so lastly for the intro, I'm just going to layer in that same violin that we made in the drop, because in her track she kind of has this violin that fades in through the intro to right to the end just before the cello comes in. And so the violin, the piano up, and the piano chords together, this is how the intro sounds. Okay, so now we've got all the main elements done for the track. All that's left to really do is to kind of arrange it into a build-up and a drop. Okay, so the intro was pretty much already arranged. I haven't really changed the arrangement at all. All I've really done is just gone in and added some sweeps over here. So I noticed that she uses like just your typical white noise rises and stuff. So I've just got these ones layered together here. And then I added this little drum fill over here right at the end. In her track, there's like this, it sounds almost like a hat fill or like a ride fill or something. But I found what worked really nice is to just take the snare loop, which sounds like this, and just take out the fundamental and all the mid-range, and then it kind of just gave the same feeling. And then we kind of drop into the beginning of the track where I've just got the kick drum playing and the brass pads, the drone, the cello, and the rolling bass. And then after 4 bars we start fading in the vocal that we found over here, which kind of sets us up to go into the next section, which is when all the rest of our drums were going to come in. Another thing I also made was this little flourish, sounds like this, which just creates this like really pretty atmosphere that kind of rings over into the next section. And this is the MIDI for it. And that's also made from Purity with this droplets pluck. And I've also got this cymbal transition to kind of bring you into the next section. And that's also got a delay on it. And then we bring in all the rest of our hi-hats for the next section over here, for the next 8 bars. And then after 4 bars, we start fading in our arpeggio here. And then we kind of get into the end, or like the climax of this drop, where the violin starts to fade in. And the vocal comes in, and I also added like another layer to the vocal. So this one just sounds like this. And then the next section I layered this with sort of like a modifier in Arcade that just changes it a bit. And then we just have some sweeps taking us out to the end of it. Oh, and before we listen to the track, I forgot one thing. I did make some slight variations, and that was to this brass bass in the kind of B section and C section of the drop. You can see it has these kind of passing notes that I never had before. And they sound like this. Just to create some variation in the bass pattern when that melody drops out. Okay guys, all that's left is for us to just bring everything in together and listen to the full track. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Yeah, 3, 2, 1, let's go.